Hello fifth graders, today we're going to go over how to subtract, how to add decimals, how to convert measurements, and how to multiply decimals. So for the first section we're going to go over is subtraction, and we're going to be finding the missing number for problem number 2. So it says blank minus 350 equals 3082. So now this blank will represent our missing number, which I'm going to represent using the variable x. Of course, you can use any other variables as you wish. For this specific problem, I'm going to be using x. So now I'm going to rewrite the problem, including the x value. So it says x minus 350 equals 3082. So now the way we find x is by isolating the variable x by adding 350 to both sides. So now once we add 350 to both sides, we'll be left with only x on the left side. And then we just have to add these two. So we get 2, 13, 4, and 3. So our x value should be 3,432. So now I'm going to go over the steps on how to find the missing number again as an overview. So the first step I do is replace the missing number, the blank side, with a variable. Any variable is fine. And after that, I'm going to be using algebra to isolate the x on one side. On this problem, we isolate it on the left side. And after you do the algebra, you'll end up with your final answer. And that's it. The second section we're going to go over is finding not the product, but the sum. We're going to find the sum of the decimals. And we're going to go over only number 1 over here. It says 0.149 plus 1.93. So I'm going to place these numbers. So now the first step is very important. It's placing your numbers, your decimals, in the correct way. Now, in the correct way, when I mean in the correct way, I mean so that your decimal points is aligned together like this. So if you notice the way I did it, I made sure the decimal points are aligned on top of each other like this. So now this is how you're going to place your decimals, and I will also show you the incorrect way of placing the decimals. So this is an incorrect way of placing your decimal. And you will see why it is an incorrect way. So the reason why it's incorrect is because the decimal points aren't aligned together. They're diagonal to each other, and we cannot let that happen. So this is incorrect way. You will get a total different answer that is completely wrong. So the way you place your decimals is so that it aligns together like this. Never like this. So now after you aligned your decimals properly, now all you have to do is just add. So 9, 7, 10, and then 2. So after you do this, the final step is placing your decimals in your final answer. And the way you place it is like this. So you're going to place it between the 2 and 0. And the reason why I place it over there is so that it aligns with the decimal point of your first two numbers. Like this. So your final answer should be 2.079. So I'm going to go over an overview again. So the first step is to place your decimals on top of each other correctly with the decimal aligned together like this, never like this. And after you do that, all you have to do is just add vertically like this. And after you add them, the final step is placing the decimal in your final answer, which you're going to do by making sure it aligns with the first two again. So the third thing we're going to go over is measurement. We're going to be converting the given measurements, and the given measurements here is 1 yard equals 3 feet, and we have 1 foot equals 12 inches. So the way I like to convert given measurements is by doing cross multiply, which I will show you right now. So we're going to go over number 2 and number 4. Number 2, it says 32 yards equals x feet. So I'm going to replace the missing number with an x again. So what we're looking for is feet. And what we're given is yards. So when converting measurements, it's important to know what you're looking for, which unit you're looking for, and which unit you're going to be using to look for that unit. So what we're using, I'm going to color code, is yard, and what we're looking for is feet. Now over here in this measurement box, I'm going to color code the same way. So what we're looking for is feet over here, which we have over here. We also have feet over here. And what we're using to find it is through yards over here. So if you notice, these two are connected, so we're going to use this instead of this because we don't have inches. If we had inches instead of yards, we would be using this, but we have yard, and so that is why we'll be using the left. So I'm just going to erase this. So now, using the fact that we know what the yard is, below my 32 yard, I'm going to draw this division sign. And then I'm going to, below it, I'm going to write 1 yard over here, as you see. And then I'm going to take the green, and I'm going to draw a line over this again. And I'm going to take the 3 feet and write it below like this. And I'm going to write the equal signs because they are equal to each other. Now that we know they're equal to each other, we can use cross multiply. So the way I did it is I'm going to have 32 over 1 equals x over 3. So I just took out the units, but these are all the numbers. Now I'm going to cross multiply like this. So we'll end up with 32 times 3 on one side. And then we will have x times 1, which is just x on one side. And once you multiply 32 times 3, you'll know that you'll end up with 96. So now we found our missing number x. So now that's what we're going to put over here. So our final conversion is 32 yards equals 96 feet. So now I'm going to go over another problem, number 4, together. So this time we're given 75 inches equals blank yard, and I'm going to use the variable x again. Actually, I think I'm going to use the variable y this time. So now we're going to find our variable y, and let me just erase this. So now I'm going to mark it again. I'm going to color code it after I rewrite it. So 75 inches equals y yard. So I'm going to color code again. So inches is what we're given, and yard is what we're looking for. So yard is what we're looking for over here. We have it over here. And inches is what we're given. So if you notice, yard and inches aren't equal to each other. Yards is equal to feet, and inches is equal to feet. But the fact that both of them are equal to feet, we can use that to find our answer. So the way that I would go about doing this problem is first convert 75 inches into feet, and then using the feet, I'm going to convert it into yards. So first, I'm going to take the 75 inches. I'm going to take the 75 inches, and then I'm going to convert it into feet first, because we cannot directly convert from inches to yards. We don't have the rules for that. We only know how to convert inches to feet and feet to yard. So we're going to convert 75 inches into feet. So this time I'm going to use z as our variable for feet. And now below this, so 75 inches, I'm going to place the 12 inches down over here. And below z feet, I'm going to put down 1 feet. So the way I'm doing the cross multiply is the same method that I used for this. I'll end up with 75 over 12 equals z over 1, and then I'm going to cross multiply to end up with 12z equals 75. Now I'm just going to divide 12 to both sides to isolate z. And then once you divide 75 divided by 12, you know you'll end up with 6.25. So now we know our feet. I'm going to rewrite it over here, 6.25 feet. And now we're going to find the yard, which what we were trying to look for in the beginning. So that is our final answer, what we're going to look for, the yards. So now we know our feet, and so we're going to use that to find our yard. So underneath the feet, I'm going to write 3 feet over here. This time I'm using this measurement. So 3 feet, and then below the y, I'm going to write 1 yard. Now I'm going to just erase this. So now once we have our conversion units, now I'm going to write the numbers down on the side over here. 6.25 over 3 equals y over 1. Now I'm going to cross multiply. So we get 3y equals 6.25. Now I'm going to use algebra to isolate the y. And all we have to do is 6.25 divided by 3. And I'm going to just round our answer, so we should get y equals 2.08. So our final answer for number 4 should be 2.08. So number 4 took quite a lot of steps, but as long as you know how to do this part where you cross multiply, then you'll be able to do the rest. Now the last section we're going to go over is how to multiply decimals, and we're going to be finding the product, and we're going to be doing 1 and 3. So we have 0.066 times 1,000, and now to multiply decimals, you just have to multiply normally. So 0.066 times 1,000. So after you place it on top of each other, now all you have to do is just multiply normally, like how we would usually do. So we'll get all zeros over here, because whatever you multiply by 0, it will always be 0. 0 and then 0, and then finally we have actual numbers. So we'll end up with 6600. Now I'm going to add these, sorry if it's messy, and I'll get with 0.0006600. Now keep in mind that we are multiplying by decimals, so our final step should be placing the decimal in our final answer. So to find how many times where we're going to place the decimal, we're going to look at the first number that we used to multiply with, and we notice that the decimal place was moved 3 times. So I'm going to place 3 here. And there is no decimal in the thousands, or there is, but it has not moved, so it'll be 0. And now I'm going to add these two, and then we'll get 3, and this is where we're going to be used to move the decimal. So I'm going to move the decimal 3 times, 1, 2, 3, so our decimal point should be over here. After we move to 3, this is where our decimal will go. Sorry about the decimal point. So our final answer should be 66. So an easier way to think about this when you're multiplying by powers of 10, these are powers of 10, like 10, 100,000, 1 million, 100,000, those are all powers of 10s, because you can know if it's a power of 10 when you have 1 and 0, 0, zeros after the 1. So these are all powers of 10. So when you're multiplying decimals with a power of 10, it's very easy to know. There's a simpler way, there's an easy way. So for number 1, we see that we have 3 zeros. So keep in that is a way that I'm going to use for the simpler method. So since we have 3 zeros, I'm going to move the decimal 3 times to the right in our decimal. And if we move the decimal 3 times to the right, we will end up with 66, which is what we got by multiplying it out like this. So one way to find the product of decimals is by doing the long way like this, or you can move the decimal and you will still get the same answer. So how much you move depends on how many zeros you're multiplying by. So for number 3, I'm going to go over. So number 3, there's only 1 0, so I'm going to move the decimal only 1 place to the right. It's always to the right if you're multiplying. So we'll end up with 75.8. If you multiply this out, you will also get 75.8. For these problems, you can do the long way or the short way, it's up to you. And that's it for today.